Hey ladies and gentlemen, it's TJ with Jam Physics here with another one of our tech tips tutorials, and this one actually comes as a result of seeing this question posted a lot on a lot of social media skating groups, and I figured I'd just go ahead and clear this up for everyone. Bearings. Been getting a lot of questions about these little guys right here. What size bearings fit? What's 8 millimeter? What's 7 millimeter? Will this fit my wheel? And I'm here to explain that to everybody who doesn't know yet. Now, 7 millimeter and 8 millimeter only denotes the inner diameter of the bearing. It only denotes this size right here. So they say 7 millimeter bearing or 8 millimeter bearing or 7 millimeter axle or 8 millimeter axle. They're only talking about the ID or internal diameter of the bearing. The external diameter of the bearing, however, this is going to be the same regardless. So it doesn't matter what wheel you get or what bearing you have, the bearing's going to fit the wheel regardless. And I'm actually going to demonstrate that in a bit. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and show you a good way to tell whether or not you have an 8 millimeter bearing or a 7 millimeter bearing. Alright, so getting started, I have two different size bearings. They look like they're the same size, right? But they're not. This one's an 8 millimeter bearing, and this one's a 7 millimeter bearing. Remember what I said earlier, the only thing that 7 or 8 millimeter refers to is the inside diameter. The external diameter of all roller skate bearings is going to be the exact same, regardless of whether they say 7 millimeter or 8 millimeter. It's going to be the same. Now, this pencil is actually going to be your best friend on this. You can take a number 2 pencil and you can stick it through the center. That is an 8 millimeter bearing. If you take the same pencil and you stick it through and you can't get that through there, that is a 7 millimeter bearing. Now, just to demonstrate that either one of these bearings is universal and you can put it inside of whatever wheel, I'm actually just going to take a random wheel and I'm going to press them both in. So 7 millimeter wheel and an 8 millimeter. Now this side has the 8 millimeter bearing and this side has the 7 millimeter bearing. Just to prove, no matter which one you get, it's still going to fit any wheel. That way, if you're unsure about whether or not the bearings are going to fit your wheel, they're going to fit your wheel. It's all about axle size. Super high performance plates typically come with a 7 millimeter axle. So you need a 7 millimeter bearing or it's going to wobble all over on the axle. And then most plates, the majority of plates, especially in recent years, is 8 millimeter. This is actually what skateboards take, is 8 millimeter. So you can walk into a skateboard shop if you need bearings in a crunch, and if you got 8 millimeters, you're set, because they stock that, because that's what skateboards take. Easy to find. Hopefully that answers a few questions for you guys. Just remember, it doesn't matter whether it's a derby wheel, a speed wheel, an art wheel, a JB wheel, a jam wheel, it doesn't matter. They're universal. The bearings are going to fit into any wheel. So that ought to stop the questions and comments about, well, I'm not sure if my bearings are going to fit the wheels. Bearing outer dimensions are universal. All the wheels take any bearing you can slap in them. This is TJ with Jam Physics. Happy skating.